Today we're going to be turning these 4 simple Arizona iced tea cans into one Arizona iced tea can alcohol stove. So stick around for the next few minutes and you can see this project for yourself from start to finish. First thing we're going to do is flip one of these upside down. You can take a Sharpie if you want and mark around that inside edge. I've done a few of them now and I think I can actually see the crease in that better without the Sharpie than with it. So I'm not using a Sharpie mark. In the very bottom of that inner ridge in there, you can see just a flat spot right in there. I'm going to follow that around with my utility knife. And it will take multiple passes around that, so if you're not getting through in the first shot, that's normal. It's going to take 20-30 passes around that to get through with the aluminum. You can force it through, but little cuts work better, because what we're hoping to have is a nice clean cut inside of there. So we've got the bottom cut out. Next step, and you can do this multiple ways. You can mark it with a Sharpie. I like this method. I've got a little block. They're in 1/4-inch increments from side to side. So I'm gonna cut this 2 3/4. So all I do is put my razor blade in there and push it in, and I've got a nice way to scribe these out.
This one's not super critical on this one because it's going to get recut. I'm just getting a mark.
I'm just going to poke a hole in there and rough cut it. If you try to cut it perfectly in the first shot without getting part of that can off, it won't let you follow it around. Okay, so we got our hole. Our piece came out. We want to save this, and I'll show you what that's for later. We're going to go back to the hole we cut, and with a utility knife, I'm just going to scrape along the inside to get rid of that burr that we created. And you do want this one in relatively good shape, because you'll see in one of the next steps that we're going to have a piece that fits really tight inside of this. So all I'm doing here is from cutting it, it rolled that lip in a little bit. So I'm just taking a little tiny hook tool and going through. If there's any spots that were indented or crushed, I'm just pulling them out. So this piece is all ready. We can set that one aside. Now the next one, we won't cut the bottom out. Now this one's going to be up to you on your measurements. I'm going to go 2 inches. That's going to be what sets our elevation for our stove. So we're just going to scribe this one out. And we're just going to cut that one a little big too. And then we're just going to simply trim that back down to the line that we created. So this one we're going to want to be nice and flat. Make sure you get it down to that line that you either scribe on there or draw on with a Sharpie. Next step, we want to I'm gonna go ahead and trim this one up. So I'll go to my lowest setting. Just gonna put that on there. That'll give me a little line around there. Yeah, so we got a nice flat bottom. We'll discard that. Now I'm gonna cut this one more time. That was just to trim that flat. I'm gonna go back to my 2 inches. Now that's gonna be exactly the same height as the second piece we cut with the bottom in it. So we're just gonna lightly go around this and scribe this. Now this one is gonna get cut. You can do it after, you can do it now. I'm just gonna make one straight cut up through there. And then I'm gonna follow my scribe line all the way around. We can discard that piece. Now the next thing you're gonna wanna do is this can here, we're gonna take the very bottom and we're gonna cut around this where the paint meets the silver part of the can. We're gonna cut all the way around. So we got the bottom cut off and we can discard the rest of that can. We don't even need it. All we needed was the very bottom piece from that can. So the next step, we're gonna take this piece that we cut, that's our 2 inches, which is the same as that bottom piece. Now this is where the stapler comes into play. We're gonna take this piece here and fit it into the bottom of that. Make sure that that sits nice and flat. And that fits in that bottom cup. We're gonna pull that off. Now we're gonna take our stapler and staple towards the outside. See how that works right there? The staples are coming up through. I'm gonna put 3 staples total in that. Just double check, make sure the fit is right. So you don't want the staples at the extreme bottom or the extreme top because you need a little bit of room for this to sit down inside that groove. So now we've got a tab left over and we're gonna do the same thing. Staples face it outward. So 3 staples there. We're off just a little bit right here, so we're just gonna trim that flat. So we have our 3 pieces almost ready to go. And before I put this all together, I need to cut a little triangle down at the bottom. Not very big, maybe a 1/4 inch tall. I'm just eyeballing this. It's not super critical. It just has to be a little bit deeper than that inner valley, because when we fit these together, this is just a place for the gas to come out. And this is a double wall stove, so when we put this together and it fits tightly, we're going to be filling the inside, but we actually need the gas to siphon up the outside of this. So these little triangles are going to make that all work. And there's our jig that we had made. And if you look down on the inside, you can see a little tiny spot in the bottom where that triangle is slightly higher than the ridge of this. And that's all we need for this project. Absolute precision is not a necessity, but the closer you can get it, the more it's going to help. So we don't even need that piece anymore. That was just a guide to make this. Next thing we're going to do is our bottom piece. In this piece, that's going to fit down in there. So that's going to look something like that. And then this one is going to slide down over it. You're going to need some sort of lubricant, whether you have silicone or some sort of oil, something slippery. The cleaner polish, wood polish, works great. So all I'm going to do is spray some on the outside of that, the inside of that, and the outside of this one. So that's just going to make it nice and slippery. And then we're going to work that inside of there. And you'll have to fiddle with it for a little bit. They are, like I said, exactly the same size. There we go. Now we're in. So make sure your inner ring has not come out. Now I'm going to push that down pretty much until them are flat. Now this one was 3/4 of an inch longer than the inner one, so we've still got some wiggle room. And now I'm going to go back in there with my finger and work them bigger divots back out. You're not going to get 100% of them, but all I'm doing right now is pushing with my finger on this inner can and forcing all them ridges back somewhat flat. And I found with these new cheap cans, I mean, that's, in a perfect world we'd slide it down over, but these new cans are way too thin to do that with. So I'm just going to add some more silicone down in there so this slides gently, hopefully without tearing. So as we start getting closer to the top, so I'm just pushing that with my thumbs a little bit at a time right now. And that inner wall, we're going to have to work around that lip that we originally cut out. And it's going to be a tight fit, so just go a little bit at a time. Alright, we're getting really close. Now that original piece we cut out, I'll show you what that's for. I'm just going to set that down in the bottom. So as I tap this in, it doesn't ruin our can. So by driving this inner piece in, what we're doing, the walls are actually driving up inside of here, and that false inner wall that we put in is driving up into this rim. So all I'm gonna do is make sure that that doesn't spin or wiggle, the inner wall doesn't wiggle up and down. I know that I'm totally seated now. So that is all the way home. Take out my piece. So we're gonna have to mark that flat with the bottom, and then we're gonna crush everything in. And there's a few ways to do that. You can either just get in it with the scissors, take a razor blade, and set that in there flat on that rim. All I'm doing is lightly scoring all the way around that. That gives me a mark at the elevation that I need. So I'm just gonna hop in there with my scissors and then just follow the outside of that line. Try to get it as flat as I can. And the precision on this cut is, I mean, it's a few steps lower than brain surgery, so don't get overly concerned, and you'll see why here in a second. Make sure you don't have any sharp edges. All right. Make sure I'm still good and tight, nothing moved in there. Now all I'm gonna do is start folding these in and try to get it the best I can to match that contour. Like I said, these new cans, it's really hard to do. They don't want to bend, so just start crinkling that down in the best you can. Hold a section with your thumb and fold a new section down into it. I like doing this by hand, and then after that we'll grab a piece of wood, because I'm actually kind of almost folding this outer edge. I'm pushing inward with that and over with this thumb, so it's kind of putting a wrinkle in it every time I go around it. So as I was working them around, you can kind of see your folds. They're all folding back this way. So I'm gonna bring that piece of wood and try to work them folds back in a little bit more. And that's about what we're gonna get on that end. As long as that's sitting flat and not rocking, we've got it made. Next step, we're gonna put orifice holes around that, and we're gonna do that with just a regular thumbtack. I found 16 works great on this. So if you have typewriter paper, a little narrow ribbon, that'll work. Or if you just take a piece of paper, all I did was cut a strip off about the length of that, wrap that piece of paper around it, and then trim it so these are exactly the same length and they meet up right there. And then if any of you have ever sat through my fractions class in high school, we'll take this piece of paper and we'll fold it in half. Everybody knows where this is going. Now I've got two pieces. I fold it in half again. What do I got? 4 pieces. Fold it in half again. 8 pieces. Fold it in half again. 16 pieces. So now that is going to be our spacing between every one of them. So if you open it up, and I've already gone ahead and done this, but if you take every one of them 16 divisions and just put a little tiny mark on there. They'll be easy to see. You don't have to do this. This is just for people that have issues and need exactly right. So that's gonna lay your spacing out 16 perfect holes all the way around there. You can just do it as you wish. Right where this outer ridge meets the bottom, I'm gonna make my first spot there. And then I'm just gonna keep going around every one of these 16 divisions. And again, the spacing on these is not really critical. I just think it looks really nice when they come out perfect. And you can see that really nice flame pattern. There, I get 16 perfectly divided marks. Just take a punch, and I'm going to find that crease where they meet. Now if you look, that's kind of at a slight angle, but I'm almost aiming for kind of straight down, tipped in a little bit. If you drive that tack in so it goes at an angle like that, that's going to push through your outer wall, and now you're going to have a hole, and that siphon's not going to work quite as well. We'll do a few more here and then we'll come back. And so on and so forth all the way around the can. I'll get these finished and then we'll come back afterwards. So if you're wondering what the little soda can was for, we'll cut a hole into that, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna follow it where the paint meets. Okay, that piece is ready. Now that little can fits perfectly inside that big can, and that's going to give us a little bit more of a standoff. It's an alcohol stove. Heat dry gas is alcohol. Yellow bottle, not the red. The red has fuel additives. That's nothing you want to mess with. So I'm just going to do a little bit here to show you how it works. We can do a boil test on another day, but I think this video is going to be plenty long enough. If you have a match works great. I don't have a match handy. So what we need to do now is let this thing warm up. As the outer walls start getting warm, it's going to create a siphon action, and then these orifice holes around the outside edge will start to catch.
It's already starting to catch us. Yeah.
So right now, this is called priming the can.
Wow, it looks cool in the dark.
And that appears to be pretty well warmed up and going. So I'm just going to take our soda can cap and set that down over. You can see how that changed the flame pattern a little bit. Now this stove is nowhere near as efficient as like the Fancy Feast, but it's still a nice little project. It's fun to do. There's multiple pieces. You can see as the alcohol is warming up, you can see the flame growing now. The prime's really starting to take.